listen here. So, I have figured out Jaune's Semblance. And if you were a Patreon, you would have known that I had figured this out like weeks ago, because Patreons get all of my videos a week early, but this video was actually posted weeks early, if you will, because I just, you know, we pre-recorded a bunch of stuff, I uploaded it all, and that's kind of what happened. So, Hunter, I have found out what Jaune's Semblance is.
I've never seen you so, like, confident.
I don't even like Jaune, and I'm so excited because I feel like I figured it out. I looked it up online.
I hate that bitch, and I'm so excited.
Nobody else has said this.
Yes.
I looked it up. I looked up, like, Jaune blank semblance, question mark. I've looked up Jaune blank. Like, I've looked up everything you can think of to see if anybody else has thought of this, and it hasn't come up, at least in the Google search. I don't know what some obscure Tumblr has, like, for their theories, but as far as I know, this is my theory, and I'm so glad. Because I feel like sometimes, not that I unintentionally steal things, but, like, for example, Sun being a member of the White Thing. I thought of that all by myself. You know what I mean? Like, as soon as I watched...
And you did. You just codependently of other people who also thought of it.
Exactly. It's not an original thought, let's say. It's so, like, because I thought of it as soon as I watched the show, and other people have also thought of it, and I don't want to be accused of stealing, you know what I mean? And so, I am just saying that this is my theory, okay? Anyways... I'm getting really emotional about this. I feel like I figured something out. So, Miles and Carrie said that we've already seen Jaune's Semblance on screen, and they took a picture from the Forever Fall episodes of RWBY. We recently rewatched them when this video came out for Patreons. Again, if you wanted to see this when you actually got the reference of what we're talking about, or the context, you should have became a Patreon and saw this earlier. So, Hunter.
Yes.
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 Alright, so what do you think I'm gonna say? I'm actually curious to see...
I remember I was there when we did
But I didn't tell you what I thought it was, I don't think.
It was something along the line of, like, there was a flash of light.
No.
No? Okay,
No.
so I have no clue.
A lot of people think that it's super strength because when they see that scene in Forever Fall, they look at where he glows and Cardin jumps back or whatever. But that, to me, is his aura. A lot of people think it's super strength because he chopped off the head of a bear, but we know that Grimm aren't that, like, inner-based, you know what I mean? Like, RWBY cuts off heads pretty easily, and so if Jaune's sword was a little sharp, he could literally cut off the balls of darkness. So I do not think it's super strength. Here's what I think it is, okay? Because Miles referred to a picture from this episode, and it was of Jaune glowing, but I think he kind of did that just because it was a nice shot. Like, I don't think that he did that because he's like, there, it's right there. You know what I mean? Like, he was just kind of, it was referring to that in a sense. Like, it was just referring to that, like, those scenes. And so here's what I think it is. There is a Grimm that begins to charge at Jaune, and, like, Grimm don't seem to care about sweets. It was a bear Grimm, and so there was kind of a joke in there. But Cardin has the stuff on his chest, right?
Yes.
The Grimm looks at Cardin and starts running towards Cardin because Cardin has stuff, right?
And ignores Jaune?
Yes.
Is this where you're going?
So here's where I'm going with this, okay? So I don't think that Grimm give a shit about sweets or whatever because they just want to eat humans, as far as we know. They don't really have another sort of, I don't want to say another sort of purpose, they don't really give a shit about anything else. So don't be like, oh, he was only going after Cardin because Cardin had the sweets. Like, what Grimm is stopping to eat a cupcake while there are humans, like, running around to be killed? You know what I mean? And so, I think that the zoom in on Cardin's chest was just a shot. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it was anything like, ooh, you know, Bear Grimm's, like, jam. Like, what a surprise. Ha ha ha. Like, I don't think that's what it was. I think it was just, like, kind of to see what the Grimm was seeing, and the Grimm saw a, you know, a meal, rather. Maybe he was looking at Cardin's chest not because it was covered in juice, but because it was big and, like, hefty and shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's some good human right there.
That's
maybe it had nothing to do with the stupid stuff on his thing, okay? Here's what I think it is.
Some people call that thing a chest.
Because Jaune it looked at Jaune, and then right after it looked at Jaune, it didn't give a shit about, like, it made eye contact, because it was running after Cardin, running, then it saw Jaune, it turned to Jaune, it looked at, like, they made eye contact, and then it was like, nah, bitch, and he went for Cardin instead. So here is what I think Miles and Carrie were saying about the semblance here. I think that Jaune's semblance is that Grim will not attack him. I think that he is a natural Grim repellent. I think that that is what he is. You know what I mean? Because it's different when you're in a scene and Grim are kind of all around you, and you know what I mean, that they charge at you, like with Nora and Ren and stuff like that. Like, that's a little different because there are other people in the area and the Grim could be going after them and it just looks like it's charging at Jaune. But this was just Jaune and just Cardin, right? And instead of getting at Jaune, it went at Cardin instead. And I feel, are you trying to die?
Nope, I'm trying to get my aura down so I get more ultimates.
No, it only happens every 30 seconds.
Oh, shoot.
You have to time it, you silly. Anyways, and so I think that the reason why the Grim ignored him is because of his natural semblance. And I think his natural semblance is that he is Grim repellent. And we've seen other people with similar semblances like this where Ren can kind of hide himself, and that is able to make sure that the Grim don't come, because it seems like he's calming people down. Like, it seems like that's what he's doing because the Grim can sense emotion and stuff. So it's rather than nobody can see them, because obviously they can still see each other, it's more like the Grim can't sense them, right? But I feel like with Jaune, it's even stronger than that. I feel like with Jaune, the idea is that Grim don't even care about him. Like, they just can't see anything when they look at him, sort of thing. Like, maybe he's, like, it's sort of an emotion masking like Ren, but it would be kind of a higher power of that. You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't be that, you know, he needs to turn gray and calm himself down or whatever. It would just be a natural masking, and that's what his semblance would do. It would mask him entirely, like, not just, it basically like Grim invisibility, you know what I mean? Because even though Ren has that calming down thing, he has to actually calm himself down and make his emotions neutral. I don't think Jaune needs to do that. I think what Jaune does is that, it's just naturally the Grim just don't see him, period. Like, all the time, like a built-in camouflage. So it makes it different enough from Ren's semblance to still remain interesting and still be something that we could see that was foreshadowed to in the past. And so I think that scene with the Grim is really integral, because the Grim and him, like, the Grim definitely looked in his direction and then walked away anyway, right? And so nobody's talked about this, and I feel like that's super important. And I feel like a lot of people draw that up to, like, well, he wanted the jam that was on Cardin's chest. Like, Grim don't give a shit about that. And if they do, like, that's bad writing. Because the Grim are supposed to be soulless, like, thoughtless things. And as far as we know, they don't need to consume food or water or anything like that. So why would the Grim give a shit? So in my head, what I think is going on here is that Jaune has a semblance similar to Ren, right? Where, it is a camouflage of sorts. And I feel like to an extent that fits in with their characters as well, because it makes sense that, at least to me, that if anybody were to have the semblances like that, it would be Juniper, just because their history is based off disguises, right? And you could argue that it's not as much for Achilles and Thor, but it's very heavy in Mulan and for Joan of Arc, right? And so I feel like when they kind of decided what semblances they wanted to have, they sort of also did based on that, like, you know, Piran and Nora, their character inspirations also cross-dress to be in disguise, but it's not really as integral a part of their story. Like, I don't think that's the first thing you think of when you think of Thor or Achilles.
First thing I think about when I think of Joan of Arc is dying burned to a stake. So
well,
maybe that.
You know what I mean. Like, but cross-dressing is a big part of her story for her in Mulan because they did it a lot. You know what I mean? Like, that was part of that is what drove their story. Meanwhile, for Achilles and Thor, I don't think that's much of a story driver. That's just something that happened in it. But for Mulan and then Joan of Arc, their stories to work, they had to disguise, right? They had to cross-dress, especially for Mulan, and that's why I think Ren has that semblance, because Mulan is all about disguising themselves and kind of hiding who they are, which is hiding your emotions in a sense, to get away from the Grim. And then Joan of Arc is more kind of hiding in plain sight. almost, because it probably wasn't too hard to tell that she was, like, maybe people just didn't, like, I don't want to say didn't notice her, but didn't really pay attention. Whereas Mulan, she got caught, right? And so I think that that's, well, I mean, I guess, like, she got caught, like, big time in her story, like, you know what I mean? And so I know that, like, eventually, like, I think that all the cross-dressing was revealed, because obviously we know about it, but for Mulan, it's such a bigger part that I think because, to an extent, that Joan of Arc could camouflage better, like, I guess, or cross-dress better, if you want to call it that, then Jaune would have the stronger semblance. That'd also be based on their character, and we know that everyone except Pyrrha has something that is based off of their character that they're based off of for their semblance. Again, the Mulan thing, like, kind of hiding who you are, hiding your emotions, stuff like that, that's Mulan. Lightning is Thor, and then for Jaune, this would also fit into Joan of Arc again. The only reason why I'm kind of wary of this is because it fits really close with Ren's semblance, and I don't want to think that they copied it, but at the same time, I think it's different, right? Because there's a difference between hiding from the Grimm, and then the Grimm just cannot see you, right? I think those are two very different things, you know what I mean? Because for Ren, I'm saying that his has to be activated, but Jaune's is just natural, and I think that it would also make sense
with
Hold on, I have one more thing. It would also make sense because if you think from an evolutionary standpoint, okay, Jaune and his family, like Jaune's parents have a lot of kids, alright? They have 7 girls, and they have him. They have 1 boy. And it seems sort of ridiculous that they'd be able to have that many kids and have all of them survive this far. And especially, like, you could be like, oh, but they're inside the walls, everything's okay inside the walls. Like, okay. But when you think about it, his grandfather was this big shot in the Great War, and that was against humans, so the semblance probably didn't matter that much. But we know that when conflicts are high, the Grimm come, everybody goes to fight the Grimm, and then they go back to fighting each other. That's kind of what it seemed like in the Great War episode. But
guys, let's take a break. Grimm back. Okay.
But they're also going camping, and like the kingdoms seem like city areas. So where the fuck are you going camping inside of like the city? You know what I mean? And so it could be a small island like Patch, which we still know has a lot of Grimm on it because Yang almost got killed on Patch, right? And so for them to just be able to go camping whenever they want and the Grimm to never bother them, to me that says that this is a hereditary semblance, unlike Ren's, which may just be him, right? This is a hereditary semblance. They all have it, and it's an evolutionary advantage, right? And so that's why they were able to reproduce so many times. You know what I mean? Like, I have evolution on my side, you guys. You know what I mean? And like, maybe if we knew how many, like,
the Charles Darwin of...
And maybe if we knew how many siblings, like, Jaune's grandfather had, that could help prove it. But you guys know what I mean, right? Like, I feel like this is something hereditary. This is something that doesn't need to be activated. It's just, Grimm look at them, and for some reason, they're not there. Like, that's it. It's not like Ren, where Ren needs to, like, maybe the Grimm will see him, he goes into his calm mode, and the Grimm will be confused, right? This is just, like, not seeing Jaune whatsoever. Nobody knows Jaune is around, right? And so I think that's vastly different. And I think that it could be done differently visually, because we know that Ren turns gray, right? So we could just sort of, like, I guess see from a Grimm point of view that they're, like, that Jaune's just not there, you know what I mean? And I guess they could have also done that with Ren, but in the scene with the Grimm, you still see Ren and Nora, and they're under the bridge, right? And so, I don't know, I feel like that we could make it different enough. You know what I mean? Because again, Ren has to activate his, Jaune is just born with it, you know what I mean? And that would be a fantastic evolutionary trait, that would be a wonderful hereditary semblance, and that is why Jaune's family are such good fighters. Like, the Silver-Eyed Warriors can annihilate everything in their path, they can hide from literally everything. Jaune's family, and so I think that would be very interesting. I think I solved it, honestly.
I feel like then all the other times that Ren did attack Jaune,
but he never got attacked all alone, right?
Yeah, so.
He always got, like, I don't even think, they weren't even in the breach. Were they?
Jaune was in the breach.
Was he?
Yeah.
Was Team Juniper, because I thought Team Juniper missed it.
No, remember they got called.
Oh yeah, but they were together, that's the thing, is that I'm saying when they're together, I think that the Grimm, it's hard, because say that, you know, there's a guy running towards me and Hunter. We don't know who he's just after me and Hunter, right? And if I kill it, or kill him, right, like, you know, we aren't gonna know, right? You feel me? And so if a Grimm charges, like, like, at Jaune and Pyrrha, let's say, like, it's probably charging at Pyrrha for all we know. It doesn't even see Jaune, like, with the Semblance. And if, like, somebody can find instances where Grimm charges Jaune again to prove me wrong, like, you can do that. But if Jaune is just going around killing Grimm, like, more than, if Jaune is just going around killing Grimm, I should say, it's, I don't know how to explain this. It's different than Grimm charging at him, because the Grimm just wouldn't expect it and they would just, like, die, right? You know what I mean? So I don't think that's an indicator of Jaune having that power, per se. Like, it's much different if he's killing a Grimm than if a Grimm is actually charging him all alone. I think that's the only time we've seen him charged by a Grimm all by himself, right? Where he's completely alone. And I feel that's why he also makes such a good, like, strategy person, is because the Grimm can't see him, and so he can give instructions from anywhere in the battlefield, and the Grimm does not give a shit about him. You know what I mean?
It's true. It's true.
And so I feel like that is why he's so good at strategizing all the time. That will kill you, I think, by the way. Yeah. There you go.
I was like, ooh, iridescent lake.
Yeah, no, that's a
Okay.
Grimm sludge poison. But yeah, you know what I mean, Hunter? And so, I don't know. I feel like I'm onto something, okay? And so maybe you're like, no, Cal, like, that's dumb. Like, you know, Jaune, here, and here, Jaune got charged, and I'll still be like, but he was with his team, though, fam. Like, he wasn't by himself. I would have remembered. And even if I didn't remember, maybe I made a mistake, and maybe this is completely bullshit, but he did, like, Miles did, you know, take a screenshot from this scene, right? And so I feel like it has to be something in this scene pointing it in that direction, and I don't feel like Jaune had super strength in this scene, you know what I mean?
I feel like maybe he just googled Jaune RWBY and took a photo. Like, this one works.
I guess, but I think it was, I don't know when it was, but, you know, it's too coincidence, you know what I mean? And we kind of talked about this in the Crow is RWBY's dad episode, but he never had to say anything about where we could find Jaune's Semblance, right? Or that we had seen it before or anything like that. Like, he never had to say any of that, right? He could have kept quiet, nobody would have, like, known the difference, you know what I mean? And so for him to be like, oh, hey, like, yeah, you've seen it before, and then post a picture of that scene, like, doesn't that seem fishy again? You know what I mean? Because I think that it's a little bit like he's trying to lead us somewhere, and then nobody, because everybody was just like, it's strength, case closed. Well, bitch, the case isn't closed, and I think I got it. I kind of hope I'm wrong in a way, because that means there's just something better. Like, I hope that it's not strength, because I think strength has been pretty ruled out at this point, and I think strength's kind of like cliche, I guess. I would like to see with Jaune more interesting. So it's not strength. I hope it's, if it's not my idea, I hope it's not also strength. You know what I mean? Like, as long as it's neither of those, I'm okay with being wrong, but I really enjoyed kind of doing the research for this and rewatching the episode and, like, stuff like that. Because I feel like this one is, like, a big contender for actually being creative. Again, even though Ren has it, I feel like they could make it different enough. Because if you think about it, Sun has clones and Blake has clones, but they work in a totally different way. And so you're not like, Sun's copying Blake, or Blake's copying Sun, or that's so lazy. You know what I mean? And so I feel like in that sense, it, you know, it can be different enough, but also similar enough. And so people are probably going to comment with that because they probably didn't get through this whole video, and I'll be like, please look at this spot where I said that Blake and Sun have the exact same semblance, but it's very different from each other, that Blake's clones are stationary and Sun's can move, and, like, they can make it different. And so I don't think, but kill, Rin already has it, is a good explanation, especially when you have Sun and Blake, two characters that work together a lot, have the exact same thing, so just calm down. Anyway, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Again, I really enjoyed making this theory. And, yeah, you guys should become a Patreon if you want to see this, like, weeks early. And at least a week early, but weeks early, definitely. And, yeah, guys, I will see you later. Again, I hope you enjoyed. You guys join our Discord server if you like RWBY. And that's pretty much it. So, again, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you later. Bye.